Welcome to my space. My life and journey is one of ups and downs. Life can be very challenging, but it's when we open up that we find our solace. Let's heal. Let's grow. Let's cry. And you know what? Laugh together. Welcome to Conversations with Phumzile, your girl next door. Let me tell you a story. I think that it will be easy if I answer it as a story.
Okay.
My mom always said to me, or to people in general, when she used to explain my age, she'll say, yeah, Phumzile is 2 years younger than her age. Okay. I never knew what it meant then.
Yeah.
But part of my story is I repeated, I think, in primary school, like, so I repeated classes, like some A, sub B, I think I repeated. And then when I moved from Ejobek, Funde KZN, I repeated standard 6, all those. So I'm 2 years behind ni matric with 77 and me 75.
Okay.
So me that took being 2 years behind became like part of my story. Okay. My mom always said, velu Phumzile, like I'm behind. So I don't know whether that's where the young spirit comes from.
Yeah.
But my personal story is I always say I'm my kids' age. I'm my age and my kids' age.
Mm-hmm.
I mother differently.
Mm-hmm.
I believe kids choose their mothers. And because there's no man employed. So you become your kids. Let them teach you who they are. So for you to know them and learn, you need to be where their level.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why then I can be. My daughter's about 14. I can be 21. I can be 29. And then when I choose, I'm my age. So it's all ages. I guess that's why. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it.
So
there's no other formula.
I wouldn't necessarily call it 3 different generations, but your son born in the 90s,
yeah,
your daughter born in the 2000s, then the last one born in the 2010s. So how then? So you adapt to literally 3 different generations.
So
Because the 2010s are Gen Alpha, the 2000s are Gen Z, and then the 90s are millennials. Yeah. So that's how then my young spirit comes from. There you got even a better answer than me. There it is. Now I know why. I think I don't take myself seriously. I was also a bit surprised about when you told me that your husband is younger than you. But then it makes sense now when you're telling that you were in class with them, because it didn't make sense because you said you guys met in high school. Yeah. And so now the maths was not mathing for me, and then he was my age group. Hey. Yeah. So that's how we met, and then I didn't even know, but in my head we were like same age. Yeah. No, until later, like, oh, go on, my 77. Oh yeah. So, but naturally, I've always gravitated in or being attracted to younger people than me, or the younger people will be attracted to more me. Consciously, I've been scared of if an older person, Angela or anything else, half the time it will be so difficult for me to say yes. If I've dated somebody older than me, it would be maybe 1 year old or 1 year older than me. Okay, now I had a relationship with an older guy then, but it didn't work because it felt like it's your dad. You know, that Natimelo's parting angelities and all that. Yeah. And I was like, it never worked. But most of my relationships or even friendships, it's been people younger than me, than my age. But in tender, ukuba in control. So I don't know if psychologically maybe that is the issue. Yeah. Not to say angithanda controller, no. Or I like being in control. But with males, I think my issue has always been I don't want somebody who would define my life and how I need to live my life and all that. But your peer,
you grow together, you live together. So it's been easier, you know?
You get to experience all of the same things in life together.
Yeah. So most of the like literally I shut down. I just can't. I like wait. So I was a runner. Got dollar. So I would just run.
Yeah.
Like no. So you know the funniest thing about my growing up, there's part of me that I don't remember.
Okay.
And there's parts of me that I remember. Yes, born and bred in Soweto. And as a Soweto or child or Dlamini, Ekasi, most of my memories were me first born, only girl, and Benka. And all I liked was ukudlala estradeni. So the cleaning, kwenzani endlini, no, isikhathi sami kusestradeni. Like free spirited. And I wasn't all over. You know, when you are that girl where everybody wants to be part of you, when they were playing, you're always there, they want you there.
Yeah.
So my fondest memory when I was still young as umntana Soweto before I moved to KZN,
Yeah.
that was Kitty. Mama and Baba besebenza, they were always at work, come back late, so Buklala, everybody would come at my house. Okay, people thought we were rich, and I don't think we were. But you know, when you have that home where you're the first house with big house, stock noted, all those other things where it's the first, then people think you have all the money and they want to come to your house. So it was that kind of vibe, but it was not the vibe. So TV and all that. So I grew up very quick. My mom, Begatan I can clean. So I had my own room outside. So because of that space, Kobangati, you know, you have your own room at 10, 11, 12. Like, wow. So that's what I remember at home. Free, able to play extra daily freely with no care in the world. And then later then in life, I think when I was 14, then I was gang raped. My life then changed. The person that I think I was then changed. Like, you know, look, papa, down, quiet.
The innocence.
Gone. Then my mom thought now I'm dating or now saying as Gakulu and all that. That's why now my character has changed and all that. And now I'm failing at school, you know? So she was like, okay, as Gakulu, instead of maybe checking to what happened with me, why they like difference. Then she took me to KZN. Then a different person then, Phumzile, I think, came, I guess, now with all those struggles and all that. I remember being Senkanda, Mkashweni, we used to call it Mkashweni. So from a Soweto girl, uyokulela Komarondo Valley, next to Isbaya, then so was Uksinda, Ukteza, and all that. I think that's where sometimes I feel like I'm more Zulu than anything else because that's where I learned cultural stuff, you know, all of those kind of things. And in that, Phumzile, the young Phumzile was so it. I think I forgot about that girl. Then the new life was me moving from one place to the other. So from that, now I moved to the other school where it was a boarding school, Samanto Mazan, and then something else happened, grew to something else. And then I moved to, I think I'm a high school, I moved about 3-4 high schools. So friends, you meet people, and then boom, after a year, they're gone. Then high school lunch, like on 3 years, I think where I met Upapa. Uteri pe ang whether it's your husband or ex-husband or wife, but anyway, story for another day. So some friendships from there, at least there are people who we still connect from Mpumalelo or Olu, you know. Like not your everyday friends, but it's people that I can say, oh, one, so and so, because then we still close social media and all that. We still call each other like I would have Umam Zona, who's my mom. She's still my mom now, younger than me. But I know that's a solid relationship from school, even though we don't see each other. So there's people like that.
Yeah.
Then high school finished, then came back, then qualified, PR and all, come back to Joburg. Within a short space of time, after I had my child, I moved out of home, Highfordsburg. Then there's another different life that I lived as an artist. Didn't even know that side of me. So there's so many facets of me and pockets of Phumzile that sometimes I struggle myself to say, who is Phumzile? Who are your like friends, your day-to-day friends?
Yeah.
Now, as an older woman and all that, with like career and abomakhelwane and all that, then I have people that I call family friends.
Yeah.
Than umngani nje. So I have a lot of people, like in a network of friends and family, and there's not one. And everybody, the funniest thing, most people or my friends, you can call them all, they'll tell you they are my best friend. I don't have one best friend. But everyone, and they all feel like I'm the main person in Phumzile. So it's the funniest. And I'm very close with my kids. They're also my best friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot. So you see my childhood memory.
Yeah.
And it's different chapters of me. So I'll have to say, okay, in this chapter, this is my memory. In this chapter, this is what, but in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Take us through your healing journey. Obviously, certain things happen that are outside of our control.
Yep.
And getting to know you and getting to understand that this is a platform and a space for healing. It would be interesting to know what is your journey with that.
So my healing journey, I think it started when I realized that I love conversations. I like talking about myself. And I like talking about where I've been, what I've done, and all that. And some people used to find it very interesting. So you have a colorful life and interesting and all. But I think from talking a lot about things that happened, things that hurt me, or what I went through and all that, became part of my healing journey, because there was never a time whereby I'm like, okay, I must go to somewhere to heal or read or do this.
Okay.
It's been in conversations, even in like books that I used to read. It would be those, like as an example, Ianla, Ex of Faith, when she was telling her story and going through stuff. So those kind of like stories, we're going to talk more about what has happened to you and how you've moved on and in and out. Then it became part of my healing journey and having these conversations. But later on, with work, you get to be exposed to abo eye cares and all that. I got to understand, okay, sometimes you go through stuff and you just say, nah, you're moving right along, that you don't know what actually you're hitting, and you still need to, if you don't confront things, if you don't deal with things, you will never truly heal. And that's why you have triggers and all. When my relationship with my mother became something that I will always be triggered by how we relate, and I didn't know, that's when I realized that there has to be something else that I do to figure out. Why do you want umdala? You have your family and all that, but why do you always cry for no mamako, or you want a certain relationship, a hug and all that? But that space would, because the way I moved when my mom didn't know what happened to me. So there was that part of me, of that young child, who needed somebody to say it's okay. Later on, that's how I realized. Then that's where counseling, came into being, and having those conversations with a therapist and all that added being part of my healing journey. So whether it's a conversation in a therapeutic situation or with a medical doctor, like as an example, my back was sore last week, like sore, and I was like, why is my back so sore? And I went to the doctor. She gave me painkillers, obviously. But the conversation that we had, I was like, I know what's going on with me. Actually, my son this, my husband, work, stresses and all that. In that conversation, in the medical room, is part of healing. And by the time I left, I was feeling much better, but I knew, okay, the physical part will come. So it's still a journey. So that's how I think I met my healing journey, in conversations with people and being interested in other people's stories and seeing, okay, and I think what was common that I started writing is most people will then after, hey, here's Mankulma Nawe, I feel better. So that became, actually, this is what it is, because I had to like figure out why would people say mabaqeda ukukhuluma nami, or when they have an encounter with me, they feel so much better and all that. I'm like, what did we do? You know? So I think that's my story with healing, or journey with healing. And I think it will never end, because some parts of me still have the onion factor where you heal and then there's still tears. Another layer, like, okay. So it's still going to continue. So I don't think it's the end of it. It's going to be a journey. Yeah.
So this day, in terms of what happened to you, both um, has that been something that you've been able to effectively communicate with your mother?
Yes. I got a chance to communicate that with my mom, because when I went, like, first, my therapy session, we then unpacked that story. I thought in my head my mom couldn't deal with what happened to me, and that's why I went to boarding school. I thought she knew, and the pain was, instead of helping me through what happened, what's in Habis. And that was not the truth. My mom didn't know. And her not knowing, it was like the same papa, because really I was like really, papa, and I used to like wear short skirts. I was that girl. That girl, short skirts, free and all that. So my mom thought, lo uzo shesha abe nabantwana abaningi and all that, no direction. So I didn't know that my mom didn't know, could say I was getting raped. So I thought she shipped me. So I had that resentment for a longest time. Then my therapist said one thing: can you go ask your mom about this? Did she know? Find out the truth about why she took you to boarding school. And it was polar opposite stories. So I was able then to tell her, this is what I thought, this is what happened, and this is why I've been feeling like this. Uguti, I'm wondering, I'm your only girl. You first born, your only girl. You should, and I'm not a bad child. Why did you have this so far? Because I think you could have been that, mom and daughter. I needed you more, and you taking me away. I'm like, dude, did you really not love me that much? You know? So we got to talk about it. She got to know, but I think it became harder also for her. She didn't even know how to help me through it, because then Naguye, it caused issues. Good, okay, angeke look been blamed for ukuhambisa forever, but I still find a way of dealing. But I've got an opportunity to talk to her about it. It's still hard for both of us, actually, because now it then, the issue then became not about what happened to me. It was like every other thing about also her life, her siblings, and just her as an individual, which there's other facets of us. My mom is very like strong, and umuntu oyikhulumela anyhow, and mina soft. So us being different then became one of the issues. So, but we talk about everything. We try to unpack every other thing, but yeah.
So do you think from that time that's where the roots of offense took place between you and her? So when a person is offended, they call it a spirit of offense.
Yeah.
So a spirit of offense, it's like wearing tinted glasses.
Yeah.
You see things through a certain perspective, even if what they're um, doing or saying has nothing to do with what you're perceiving.
Yes.
Um,
As much as I've never thought of it like that, but now that you say it, I think that. I think my mom got offended by me blaming her for almost every other thing in my life, when she, didn't know what happened. And then it became our relationship, whereby it's more like I must keep on selling myself to her, and she has to always defend herself when it comes to how she raised me. So I think, yeah, as much as there's other issues that have nothing to do with me that we fight about, then I feel good. I don't know why we get to fight about things that really, between me and her, Me and my mom have no problems. I don't know. Me and my mom, we don't have any issues. SCT, me and I. What's the issue between the two of you? There's actually nothing. But I think she felt, or she still feels like she always had to defend herself for or feel guilty about the decision that she made then. Yeah. And she feels like I'm always harboring on, yeah, you did this. Yeah, you did this. You know. Because my rape case or my rape issue really has not been a factor in our relationship, or also even with me, it's one of those things. Somebody asked me if I went through counseling for it and did I find healing and all that. The funniest thing is I differentiated Phumzile, the soul, and Phumzile, the physical person. Those are two different people. So whatever happened to me happened to my flesh, not me, my soul. So it never changed who I was. It might have somehow, but it's not something that I've always carried. Like, oh, it's well, even in how my relationships and all that. Yes, it diverted some of the things and I've gone through stuff, but it's never been a badge that, you know, I was raped. And that's why most of I talk about it like casually like that. It has never been a thing, you know. Then the funniest part is I met one of the guys the actual guy who actually Kipekaya, to take me to that high school where they raped me, if I may say that. Mahlangana and he was working at Truets, and when I called the new Patala and he was on the other side. And he said, oh, hi, hey, so coolile, man. Maybe now we can do things differently and now you could be more. And I looked at him and I'm like, that's why you never count those Truets. I'm like, that's why you're on the other side. Like, wow, like really, it didn't, there was that power. Like when I saw him, I was not even angry. It was very funny for me because I think I thought highly of him actually then because he was years older than me and he was dating Usis was next door, who was like older than me, was like my mom. So I thought highly of that guy. But seeing him, not Uti Amandu who are working go that environment alone, but seeing him there and serving me at the time was like, you were here. Like, wow. So I realized like I was not even angry. So it was never a thing, you know. But I'll talk about something else, what maybe how it deviated to, you know. Maybe I can say one thing for sure is the only thing that it taught me that I need to be okay with whatever happens to me. I must make a decision. Maybe that's why maybe dating younger has been a thing because I'm able to say yes or no. No, even though Ubaba how we met, Mom Shela Mina, I repair. I want to be the one who likes you first and come to you and say I like you. So in my life, people that I've dated, I think I'm the one who approached them. So possibly that's where the switch, where the power of nobody will come to me, Angshele, because immediately in my head, Ma Angshela is a game. You are telling me you want to sleep with me or you want to decide about what happens here. So give me the switch was, no. I will be the one who decides. Whatever happens, whether it's a relationship or a friendship, I decide. That is the only takeaway.
Did you ever ask about your period of defending the Christian life? Or did you say, confront them with that? This happened to my faith.
Yeah.
My soul.
I did ask myself why, because it didn't end there. Then from Mangsoga to the first school, then it became part of my journey where it was a thing. It continued. Yeah, so it happened again, Kona Enkandla, you know, and I also don't know how I feel about it, but it happened again. But then it was that thing to say, okay, there is this thing where people wanna just think I belong to them or they just want to have their way with me without me deciding, And then when I think it stopped was after I had my son, where I would be more or less in situation whereby there will be somebody who's trying to force themselves, into me. So even few, not actual rape, but those encounters kept on happening. And I think it cut off after I had my son, and when I also decided to be in a relationship. But before then, I think it was hard for me to be in any relationship, and I would be friendly with somebody and they would think there's a thing. Then, so it became the thing like, I'm tired. But I did ask myself why, but I never got an answer. There was part of me that, okay, not part of me. There was a book that I read about a story of a woman who also, Umama would Mthengise for money and everything else, until I'll cut the story short. Waya esikoleni sama Roman Catholic Church, and didn't become a nun, but lived nama nun, And in her story and her journey, it ended up, Gutsi, whatever happened to you, it's part of your purpose. So that's what I got from there, to say, oh, okay, it happened to me because possibly it's part of my story in a journey. Hence, we're talking about healing most of the time, Ogote. It had, not good, it had to happen, but it was in my path to, I'm here and hosting conversations with the Phumzile and talking to people about their stories. Possibly if that story, because that was my defining story, possibly I wouldn't have left Ekaya. I would have been a Soweto, Nkulele Soweto with my mom and dad until I wouldn't have even Yohlale kids attend for so long and move from one family to one school to the other.